What is up, 40k scientists? Welcome back to Theory Hammer, and welcome to this special double feature unit breakdown episode. We're keeping on theme here, and that is the Halloween theme, with like the slashers. So today, we're going to take a look at the World Eater's Master of Executions and Kharn the Betrayer, because both of these guys are combat monsters, and both of them belong in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or House of a Thousand Corpses or something like that. So if you like these unit breakdowns, slash that like button, thunderhammer the subscribe button, baby, crush Nurgle's bell, comment down below. Check out our other channel as well. I will eventually post the rest of the Space Marine 2 Let's Play once I fix my PC. So that's linked down below. It's just a bunch of more casual stuff. So let's jump right into it. This is going to be a bit different than my other unit breakdowns because these guys are just character dudes, so we're not going to be doing a durability test, but we will be showing their damage output, and what I think would be fun, since we're in the slasher theme, is to show how much damage they can do to specific characters. How much stuff can they slaughter? So we're going to be taking the best characters from each faction, or like the most durable ones from each faction, and giving them a good old smackaroni and cheese from each of these guys. So, let's start it right off with the Master of Executions and his datasheet and all that shit. He is about what you would expect from a character that is kind of like a side character, right? Move 6, toughness 4, 3 up save, 4 wounds, leadership 6, 1 OC. But he's got a really good melee weapon here. He's got 5 attacks, strength 7, AP 2, and a 2 damage with precision and devastating wounds. Not bad, not bad, not bad. But then he's got some abilities. While he's leading a unit, that unit gets fights first. Silly. That's a silly thing. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. He then has Murderous Swing. Each time this model makes a melee attack that targets a character unit, you can re-roll the hit roll and you can re-roll the wound roll. So now, he's got devastating wounds but with re-rolls built in. He is a little pricey because of that fights first and because of his damage output. He comes in at 100 points. No invuln, just a 3-up save with 4 wounds at toughness 4. He gives fights first, and he's got access to enhancements. He's very much just like a Justiciar for Space Marines, but we're going to stack him up here. We're going to give him the Berserker Glaive for 25 points. Now he's got 6 attacks at 3 damage. The detachment rule exists. Now he's got 7 attacks at strength 8 and 3 damage. He rerolls hits, he rerolls wounds, he has dev wounds, he has precision, and precision's usually bad, except when it's in combat. In combat, it's actually really good a lot of the time. We can put sustained hits on his unit, and we can get +1 to wound character, monster, or vehicle units. And since we're attacking characters, you know exactly what's going to happen. Let's take a look at the damage. First up, we're going to be smacking Vol right in the face. We do 12 damage to Vol. If she uses 2 miracle dice, we still do 9 damage to Vol. Vol doesn't have enough wounds to survive that, so she's gone. Next up, we got Custodes, a shield captain from Custodes. Yeah, he takes 12 damage. If we're going after something like an Alaris shield captain, he can pop his once a game, everything becomes 1 damage. If he does that, he lives, actually. He will take only about 4 wounds in that case. So when everything hitting you becomes 1 damage, yeah, you become pretty darn hard to kill that turn. If he's fighting somebody like Trajan, he still does 8 damage to Trajan even with a 2-up invuln. Now, I wasn't expecting to go over 3 characters for Custodes, so I'm not going to do that again. But that's just a little demonstration of how much damage this guy can do. Next up, we have the Adeptus Mechanicus. And of course, our target is going to be Belisarius Cawl. Mr. Belisarius Cawl, being hit by this Master of Executions, takes 11 damage on average. He gone. If we're going up against Eldar, which is the next thing on the list here, we'd probably pick the Avatar, but the Avatar is itself a super unit, so he doesn't quite get there against an Avatar. He only does 4 damage to it if it has buffs up, around 6 damage if not, if it doesn't have buffs up, which is respectable, I suppose, but it's going to have buffs up, so doesn't quite get there. You're only doing 4 damage to the Avatar and then definitely getting picked up and launched into orbit. Our next contestant to enter the rink here is going to be Lord Solar. Lord Solar takes 12 damage. Yeah, he's gone as well. So we're just setting him up and knocking him down. Next up is going to be the Black Templar. I nominate Chaplain Grimaldus to the field because he has a 5-up Feel No Pain, so he's probably going to be your most durable character. still takes 8 damage from this Master of Executions. Chop, 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 chop. Mephiston, you're next. Now, I think Mephiston has a 4-up Feel No Pain now, is that right? I'll have to break out my book and double check. But if he has a 4-up Feel No Pain, he takes 6 damage still. So Mephiston go bye-bye as well. Bye-bye Mephiston. Blood Angels, that's the best you got. Alright, who's next? Chaos Demons. They have Be'lakor to offer up, and Be'lakor takes 9 damage from the Master of Executions, which is pretty nuts. Be'lakor is like 400 points. Okay, he's like 300 points, but he's 3 times the amount of points, and he just gets half killed by this Master of Executions, so pretty nuts there. Next up, though, we have the Chaos Knights. The Chaos Knights just have basically any Chaos Knight to offer up here as a contestant, and yeah, he slashes them good. He does 10 damage to it, so it leaves it at 12 wounds. That's pretty crazy. If he's going after a baby knight, leaves it at 2. I would say that that is pretty good damage for sure. Who's next? Next we have the Chaos Space Marines, and they're going to, of course, offer up Abaddon. The problem, though, is that Abaddon takes 12 damage and dies. If you put Armor of Contempt on him, he takes 10 damage and dies. So Abaddon gets chumped. So far, the only things that haven't gotten chumped are, like, monsters that are, like, your Primarch monsters. And so Abaddon being just a regular, almost Primarch, yeah, that's pretty crazy that this Master of Executions just be like, yo, chop, 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 choppity-dop. Our next contestant comes from the Dark Angels. It's the Lion. It's Mr. Johnson here. Mr. Johnson is going to be taking 9 damage from this Master of Executions. He is showing this old man how it works. If he's got Armor of Contempt up, it'll be about 8. But holy shit. How is he doing so much damage to these things? It's because of those Dev Wound with rerolls. I forgot. And next, we've got Death Guard. They're putting up Mortarion. Mortarion takes about 8 damage. Not bad, that's half of his wounds. That's also not including his -1 damage. If he is -1 damage, you're looking at about 5 wounds on Mortarion. So fine, fine, fine. But if you put any other character up there, something like Typhus or something like that, just gone. Absolutely going to take 12 damage and be goodbye. Next, we've got the Drukhari. The Drukhari can offer up literally any character. They will all take 12 damage. Every single fucking one of them. So, they are all very, very dead. After that, we have the Gene Stealer Cults. They would probably put up a Patriarch. That's going to be their most durable character. 12 damage to him as well. So, yeah, that's 2 of them, actually, that he kills. The Grand Master from the Grey Knights is going to be the next contestant, and he does survive. He does take 9 damage, or about 8 if he has Armor of Contempt up. It's just because those Dev Wounds getting through it, like, the Armor of Contempt doesn't end up mattering all that much. But yeah, 9 damage or 8 damage to the Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight, and I think they only have 13 wounds, if I remember correctly. So, next, we have the Imperial Agents, and literally anything from this index or this codex now. God, I hate that it exists. They all take 12 damage, so all dead. If you're going up against Imperial Knights, which you would probably be choosing Canis Rex as your contestant, because this he's honorable, right? He's Khârn, he's very corny, and he wants to fight people with his very big axe sword thing that probably has a force field around it. So, he's going to pick Canis Rex. Canis Rex will take 8 damage. Not amazing, and that is because of the Feel No Pains that he gets. That's why the Chaos Knight takes a little bit more. Canis will only take about 8, but he's a fucking Imperial Knight. He shouldn't be taking like 20 damage from this guy. But the fact that he takes 8 is still pretty damn good. Next we have the Leagues of Votann. They're going to offer up Uthar the Destined because he can blank damage. He still takes 9. He's still dead. Next we have Necrons. They're going to offer up the Nightbringer, of course, because he's basically your best character. Only taking 6 damage from this guy, which is still half of his wounds. So that is going to be pretty good against the Nightbringer. Not a great target, but pretty good if he's only got a few wounds left. You know, say he's got like, I don't know, 8 wounds left. Okay, throw a grenade. Boom, you're down to 6. Charge. Okay, I do 6 more damage to you with my Master of Executions because the rest of the guys didn't even attack. Yeah, I'd say that that's probably worth it. So, next we got the Orcs. They're going to offer up Ghazghkull. This gets weird because of Makari. So, Makari basically like, it's really weird. Gaz takes about 8 damage at the end of the day. Like, Gaz himself, the model, will take, on average, about 8 damage, depending on the dice that you roll, and depending on the dice that they roll. And so that's the Orcs. We're getting close to the end for the Master of Executions with the Space Marines as their next contestant. They're putting up Guilliman. He's going to take 9 damage, just like what's-his-face, just like the Lion, or about 8 if he has Armor of Contempt up. If he's swinging at Bjorn, Bjorn will take about 6 damage, which is pretty nice, because Bjorn has a 5-up Feel No Pain. He's a fucking vehicle. So, yeah, 6 damage to Bjorn. He's got like 2 wounds left, or 3 wounds left at that point. I don't exactly remember how many wounds he has, if it's 8 or 9. But yeah, great. If you're swinging on Magnus, though, you're only doing like 4 damage or less with the buffs that he's got up. But if he doesn't have any buffs for some odd fucking reason, you'll do 9 damage to him. That's more than half of his wounds. But expect him to have buffs up. Expect to do about 4 damage to Magnus. If you're swinging it at a Tyranid Hive Tyrant as your next contestant, you'll do about 9 damage to it, or about 6 if it puts Feel No Pain up in some fashion, so that's pretty good, because it only has 10 wounds, so depending on what's going on, you could be slap-chopping people up pretty nicely. Tau, though, they don't really have any contestants that are good. You're gonna take a character that isn't Farsight, because you can give somebody a 4-up invuln, and they can have more drones for more wounds. So you can have an 8-wound suit, basically, with a 4-up invuln, instead of a 6-wound suit with a 4-up invuln. You still take 12 damage, whether you're Farsight or this other suit that I'm talking about, and that's more wounds than you have. So, he kills that. And then if you're fighting something like Angron, you're doing about 9 damage to Angron, which puts him at about 7 wounds left. So, nutty. Absolutely nutty little character guy here. This guy is way stronger than he should be. He destroys like half of the best characters on the list, like the best characters on the list. Destroys Vol, destroys Kaw, destroys Solar, destroys Mephiston, destroys Abaddon, destroys anything from Drakari, from Gene Stealers, from Imperial Agents, Votan, nearly kills Gaz even though he has a 2-up invuln. Like, yeah. Any Tau unit, any Tau character, absolutely gone. He kills most characters in the game. And the only ones that he doesn't just outright flatly just destroy are the ones that are like giant monsters or vehicles or something like that. But what really makes this guy so good is that he gives out fights first. And he's going to be in a unit that surge moves. That's really good, guys. If this unit does it right and charges something and then ties up something else, it can then just lose a few guys and surge back into combat. And they get to fight first. It's extremely good when you keep them behind a wall, close to your other stuff, with the intention to use heroic intervention on them, because they fight first. So boom, dead thing that charged you in your opponent's turn, and he just snipes at your characters. If he's going into a unit, he just crashes half the unit by himself. Like, he'll drop 4 Terminators or 4 Custodians. He's just a super duper useful tool that can have a really big impact on the game and can cause a really big headache for your opponent because of that fights first and heroically intervening and them hiding and all the surge moving and everything else that they can do, and it's hard to deal with sometimes. So that's going to be our Master of Executions. Oh baby, you need to take one of him. He's great. But next we got to take a look at Kharn, who is also just as great and should probably be in your list, but isn't an auto include. The Master of Execution absolutely is, but Kharn is just damn good. And here is Kharn's datasheet. So the only difference here between this guy and the Master of Execution's datasheet is that Kharn has a 4-up invuln and an extra wound. He's got 5 wounds. He does have a plasma pistol, which is never gonna hurt him. It's always overcharged and doesn't hurt him. But his combat is what you're here for. He has the Gore Child. It's got 8 attacks. Strength 6, AP 2, flat 3 damage. He rerolls hits and wounds of 1, like his whole unit does, at least while he's leading a unit. And then at the end of the charge phase, he can kill stuff if you fail a leadership test and you're not within engagement range of enemy units. It's the whole thing he's always done. And then he also fights when he dies, just automatically all the time. He is also 100 points, just like the Master of Executions. And the thing about Kharn that's good is the part of the Master of Execution that's also good, and that's when he's with the glaive, because it's 3 damage flat. I do wish Kharn had AP 3, but whatever. I mean, he's got 9 attacks on the charge at strength 7, AP 2, and flat 3 damage with access to sustained hits, so that's pretty cool. You know, he rerolls hits and wounds of 1 base and gives it to his unit, so if you pay the CP to give him precision, he snipes out characters almost as well as the Master of Executions. So we'll start it up with our first contender again, which is Vol. Vol takes 10 to 11 damage from Kharn. If she uses 2 Miracle Dice, she takes 7 to 8, which is just enough to kill her. If you're going against a Shield Captain, and just a regular Shield Captain, from the Custodians as our second contender, you do 13 damage to him. That's more than the Master of Executions can do, and that's just because he's got so many damn attacks. If you are fighting the Adeptus Mechanicus, though, and you go up against Call, you will end up doing less damage. You will only do around 8 damage to Call. And then next we have the Eldar with their Avatar, only 3 or 5 depending on buffs or no buffs, so not great there. Wasn't expecting to do anything great there. But against the Imperial Guard, their best contender is going to be Lord Solar, and he will also take 13 damage from Kharn. If we try to go toe-to-toe with the Black Templar and their best contender, we're going to be looking at Grimaldus. He takes 8 to 9 wounds, which is definitely enough to get rid of him. The same thing is true for Mephiston. He'll take about 6 if he has a 4-up Feel No Pain now. So for the Blood Angel's best contender, still getting it done. The Chaos Demons, they would put up Be'lakor. Be'lakor would take around 8 damage from Kharn, which is it's close to the Master of Executions, but not exactly as much. So the Master of Executions does do a little better against the Be'lakor there. But against the Chaos Knights, any Chaos Knight in this case, Kharn is looking at slightly more damage at right around 10 or 11 compared to the Master of Executions, which was 10. Against the Chaos, we would have to put up Abaddon, of course. He is our best character. If Abaddon has to fight Kharn, Abaddon takes 13 damage. I know, it's very sad. If he's got Armor of Contempt up, he'll take 9, which is still enough to get rid of him, and Abaddon will hit the dust there. So the Chaos, they do not have anything on Kharn. The Dark Angels, though, they may have something on Kharn. He'll only do about 8 damage to the Lion if he is attacking him, or about 5 if you have Armor of Contempt up there. Against the Death Guard, which is going to be Mortarion, you're going to do around 8 damage, or if he's got -1 damage up, you'll do around 5 damage to him. If Kharn is paired up against anything Drukhari, he'll do around 13 damage to it, because he's just got so many damn attacks. Same thing is going to be true if we're paired up against the Gene Stealers. He's doing 13 damage to them as well. Against something like the Grey Knights, their best character is going to be the Grand Master in the Nemesis Dread Knight. He will take about 8 damage, or about 5 if he has Armor of Contempt up. So you're really seeing the difference between the dev wounds there, between the Master of Execution doing 9 or 8, as opposed to 8 or 5. Against the Imperial Agents, doesn't matter what your character is, you're taking 13 damage from Kharn, so I don't care who your contender is in that case. Against Canis, though, so Imperial Knights now, Kharn will do a slightly more, and he'll do about 10 to 11. So actually significantly better against an Imperial Knight there is Kharn, as compared to the Master of Executions. The next contender is the Votann. Uthar will take 10 damage, so goodbye Uthar. Mr. Necrons are going to put up their Nightbringer once again, and it actually does less damage. Mr. Kharn will only do 3 to 4 wounds to it, so not great there. But we then have the Orcs. They're, of course, putting up Ghazghkull. Ghazghkull will take about 4 damage. We should kill Makari. So a little bit less damage there, but I mean, that's a pretty good unit. It's a pretty good unit with that 2-up invuln. That makes things pretty weird, actually. If we're paired up against Space Marines, we're going to be going up against Guilliman. And Guilliman will be taking 8 or 5, just depending on whether or not he puts up Armor of Contempt. Against the Space Wolves, we have to fight Bjorn. Bjorn will take about 5, so not bad there, but also not super duper great. And then against the 1,000 Suns, it's going to be Magnus, and we're going to do about 8 to him, unless he has his buffs up, in which case we'll do about 2 or 3. Magnus is pretty durable, I would say. So not great against Magnus. But if we're fighting the Tyranids, we're hitting a Hive Tyrant there, we're going to be doing about 8 damage to it. If it takes Feel No Pain, it's going to be about 5 or 6, but they've only got 10 wounds, so not dead, but also close to dead, depending on what's going on. Against the Tau, again, we're only choosing a battle suit because that's our best option, a battle suit with 8 wounds. It takes 13 damage and goes away. And then finally, if he has to fight Angron for some reason, they got into an argument and they decided, I need to fight you, he will only do about 8 damage to Angron, and if Angron puts up the Khârn Cares Not for -1 damage, he's only looking at about 5. But still, like the Master of Executions, this unit, this Kharn, Mr. Betrayer, he's gonna get rid of most characters. Like, I mean, he destroys Vol, he destroys a shield captain, he destroys Lord Solar and Grimaldus and Mephiston. He will do any Drakari or Gene Stealer is just gone. Any Imperial Agent's gone. Votan gone. So like he's definitely putting the hurt on the characters that need to be getting hurt. Now, I did mention, but I didn't mention it a lot, but I mentioned that Kharn fights on death. So you generally want to shoot him dead, but sometimes you just don't always have that option. Like if you can't fall back and shoot or something, or you're just a combat-based army, or whatever the case may be. And so that is a really nice trick to have. Charging him is not the way. This is not the way. Unless you're like super durable and you just don't care, of course, then you're probably fine. But most units that want to charge don't want to charge Kharn. He's not hard to kill, and he's with a unit of like basically regular Marine profiles, so he ain't hard to take down. So if you have to do it in combat, it's just rough because of his fights back. But if we had to pick, the choice here, I think, is going to have to be the Master of Executions, because having dev wounds with rerolls is stupid, especially at flat 3 damage with fights first. That's nutty, bro. I really do think that he's an auto-include. Both these guys benefit from all the strats and abilities that the faction has to offer, and they're both just an absolute goddamn powerhouse when they go nuclear, and they're really funny when they do so. So, I think it's the Master of Executions, but either which way you slice it, both these characters are going to be doing some funny things on the table. So pick them up, try them out, and let me know what you guys think. So I hope you guys liked this deeper dive into the World Eater characters. If I missed anything cool, leave it in the comments down below, and of course, thunderhammer the like button and the subscribe button. Give the same love to Nurgle's Bell, and watch our other videos. There's a whole bunch of them out there. So I'm out. Be careful with your chainsaws and all that, and I'll see you theorists in the next video.